What's going on, folks? Rich Butler here. Thanks for taking the time to download a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. If this is your first time checking out an episode, welcome. A little bit of background. If you're not familiar with what we do here, Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with entrepreneurs and content creators and discuss the gadgets and gear that they use to create their content, run their business, and just make their professional lives a little easier. You're probably wondering, what do toys have to do with this? Toys are the stuff that put a smile on our face. And when it comes to creators and entrepreneurs, toys isn't just relegated to action figures and Funko Pops, but it could be musical instruments. It could be knives, cars, guns in some cases. The definition of toys here is a little bit more broad than in most instances. But this week's episode is going to be a little different, as the interview I'm going to share with you guys is a sit-down conversation that I had with Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V, roughly going on almost 2 years now, maybe a little less, but definitely, October 2017, as a matter of fact, was when I sat down with him at the PhotoPlus Expo. He was doing a conversation with Chase Jarvis, and he was doing Q&A, as he usually does with a lot of his events. I made sure to stand out as much as humanly possible to get on stage, share my story, and just get some insight into what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. Needless to say, the end result of that created a snowball of different things, which I'll get into. But first, let's go to the interview. I want you guys to check this out. Hear my story that I shared with Gary as I stumbled and bumbled my way through it. And I'll share the rest of my story after the interview. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Gary V and Chase Jarvis.
Yes, let's welcome Richard to the stage.
Thank you guys for picking me. Appreciate it. Gary, I've been doing the patience thing. I've been podcasting for 11 years, content creating, a lot of sleepless nights, haven't made a dime. And the thing is, it's like, I want to support my family, keep doing my 9 to 5.
Of course.
And I've been doing it, posting on Instagram in between my lunch breaks, writing posts for my site on my phone, et cetera, et cetera. But
what do you want to happen? Let's start there. What's making it for you?
All I want to do is review products, write about video games and podcasts.
And get paid. How much have you reached out to ask people for money for doing it?
I've been reaching out here and there.
Let's be really honest here, because let's take advantage of this moment.
Yep.
How many hours in the last 11 years, and I'm asking you hours, have you spent emailing Activision, emailing Sony, emailing and saying, I would like you to pay me to review this product?
At least 50.
Hours.
Yeah.
In 11 years.
Probably a little more than that.
Okay.
Give or take.
And you've gotten mainly no's.
Some yeses, but not consistent, and that's where the problem comes from. It's, playing the long game, playing the patient, with a lot of the free content.
I get it.
Giving it all.
And Richard, and real quick for everybody, there's unlimited stories like this. It comes down to two variables. Either A, you're not good enough that the market wants to pay, because there's a lot of reviews, which hurts.
Yep.
Or B, which has been stunningly often, you're not the person that should be the business person, you should be the creative.
Right.
What runs through my mind is, in your circle of life, is there some homie that could be your 50% business partner, where she or he may spend all the time trying to monetize the creative, and 50 cents of a million's a hell of a lot better than 0 of 0.
One is better than
right.
0. Like
that's right.
It's true. But no, that's the thing. Like, I have people that have been helping me on the site for years.
Yep.
I built a podcast network from it, doing shows for other guys, other people that are on there giving other people opportunities,
Have you charged them? Maybe you're a platform that springs other talent instead of being the talent.
Yeah, I haven't.
Maybe you're a B2B business instead of a B2C business.
Yeah, I haven't charged them, just because I was giving people opportunities.
Sure.
I started writing. They're like, hey, I want to do the podcast thing like you. I gave them the opportunity. We got.
Have any of them gone off and done real things?
No, they're still grinding alongside me. Some guys hit 100 shows already, 200 shows, 500 shows.
Yep.
But that's the thing. It's like, I kind of feel like I'm spinning my wheels a little bit.
So if nobody was here, and you were with yourself in the mirror, and it was that moment to say, why hasn't it happened? What would be the answer? For real. Don't bullshit me.
I think it's just spreading myself too thin.
Okay.
More so than anything.
So stop doing that.
Have you tried doing...
No, hold on, Chase, I apologize.
Keep going.
You just like being spread thin?
No, it's not a question of it's by choice. It's because it's kind of forced.
Everything's by choice, brother.
Well, I'll give you personal context and I'll
Please.
explain. I've been raising my 2 sisters. They're both handicapped.
Yes.
I've been doing it for the last 17 years.
Yes.
Both of them are special needs.
Yes.
So, doing that,
That's
a
real.
9-to-5 job.
Yep.
Being a husband.
Yep.
Doing all that, plus
Yep.
trying to grow a business.
Yep.
Spreading yourself thin. I work 40-hour work week.
Yep.
My wife spends most time sleeping by herself because
Yep.
I'm downstairs doing
Working
the
on
grind.
this. Yep.
Go to bed at 5 a.m., wake up at 9 a.m., go to work till 7 o'clock.
Richard,
That's what I mean.
Listen, this is not fun for me to say,
Go ahead.
but I want you to win.
Appreciate it.
There's a very fine line between perseverance and delusion.
Right.
It's very thin. 11 years and your circumstance, first of all, it sounds like you can even tell you like what you're doing.
I love what I do.
Right. You might just have to settle into that. Because when I am auditing this, and I don't know everything, right? But even on quick intuition, you might be better off making money in some other way that you're not seeing, but there's a love to the consumer-facing output that you're making that you may want to not let go of. You might be able to make 80K at a B2B business on what you're doing, because it seems like you have a lot of experience and you could easily, pretty quickly, start charging people $500 a month, teaching them 11 years of experience. That's super valuable. Times 80 people, it starts becoming a real business. You just might like the thrill of putting out an output into the world. And I want to say this, because we've done a lot of business talk. It's funny for me because we're in a creative place. In business world, I spend all my time saying, fuck money, make a little less and do something you like. Because you're miserable. You know how many people I know make $1 million a year that fucking hate their lives? A lot.
Oh, I'm not greedy. I just want to be able to make enough to provide for my family.
Respect.
Live okay.
Right.
And just be a provider. That's it.
So,
and be able to provide value for my audience while
I think you're putting your talent in the wrong place. I have a funny feeling, my flip challenge. I have a funny feeling you'll make way more money if you wake up at 6 a.m. on weekends and go in garage sale and flea market and Goodwill stores and buy underpriced equipment in this industry and flip it because you actually know the value of all this shit. Like, you're gonna have to make a choice between happiness and dollars because 11 years of data are staring you in the face saying what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, it's growing, but it's, not a snail's pace, but not.
11 years is a long fucking time. And so you've got to decide if you're not going to be the personal brand, like, what do you want to do now? Do you want to accept it because the love is so awesome? Or do you want to transfer the skills and the knowledge into something that's a more monetizable reality? And that's up to you. There's no right answer. Maybe those nights are a lot of fun. I fucking do, I think it's, like I got lucky that business savvy was my thing, but like when I was getting D's and F's and college was the only way out, I got shit on my entire childhood because it wasn't good or cool. So but I chose it. I was willing to be considered a loser for up to 20 years old because I just couldn't breathe the only thing on earth I wanted to do was buy and sell shit.
I find people that trip up on 3 things. One of 3 things I'm borrowing from friend Tony Robbins. So state, story, and strategy. You usually are effed up on one of these 3 things. Mostly, I find it's the state. If you can't have control your state of mind, if you're not healthy, taking care of yourself in a good spot, it's very, very hard for yourself to tell yourself a good story. Because this is required. I'm good enough. I'm enough as who I am right now to go out there and put the work. I'm valuable. I can do this. These are stories. And if your story is like, this is impossible, I'll never get there, then you go back to state. Fix the state first, because you have to have a good state. Tell yourself a good story. When you get the story part figured out, then it's strategy. I hear you oscillating a little bit between story and strategy, because I hear a little bit of like, I want to do this. 11 years, bro, is a lot. Was it Nicole who was just up here? 6 months, and she's getting impatient. You've been doing it 11 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. That tells me you got a pretty good state. Your story is good. It's a little bit flimsy because it's been 11 years now. What I hear you not innovating on is your strategy. You're trying to do the same thing. And what Gary's telling you is, how can I make money? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Am I charging people for my MCM? Am I reselling the gear? How can I make the living or the life, or at first just some money in that world? It seems like you've been doing the same thing, and that's
the money's there. It's been small, like I said, just small here and there.
Real quick, Richard. That means the money's not there.
Right. That means
it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's
small money for 11
Start
years.
with that. Start with that. Yeah. The money's there, but it's small. No, it's not. The money's not there to the satisfaction that you want. Some people want $50,000 a year. Some want $5 million. The money's not there, and that's okay. Listen, being an entrepreneur right now has tricked everybody. It feels like anybody can do it. Yep. It's super cool. It's super hard to build a successful business.
Absolutely.
It's super hard. It's an actual skill. Like, the end. Like, it comes natural to some, just like singing, just like having an eye for a photo. I don't see a fucking blue jay and be like, oh, there's an angle. I see a blue jay, I'm like, fuck that blue jay. You know, like these are skills.
Yes.
These are skills. And like, Richard, the data shows you that from a business building standpoint, you may not have that skill. Maybe it's yet, maybe it's ever, we don't know you, but the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over and expecting a different result. You've got to do something different, bro.
Is this clear? Like, what are you taking away from this conversation?
Well, I think that I've gone too wide, like Gary says, and I got to go deeper on one aspect.
Okay.
And just
you just have a lot of creative, technical interests.
Well, what's happening is it's like, you know, you're putting out podcasts, so I've been doing that, you know, doing the YouTube thing, doing the Facebook thing, doing the Instagram thing.
But the thing, are you making a different video every day on YouTube? One is about vacuum cleaners, and the other is about technology, and the third one is...
No. I stay in my lane. So, you know, it's tech products, games, video games,
super
toys.
Saturated.
Right.
Unlimited supply. Super competitive.
Yep.
Do me a favor. How much money on this side project would you like to make in a year? Don't bullshit me. What would get you like, holy shit? Not like, I'm fucking buying islands. Like, this really, but like, this really matters to me. This extra 5K, 50, give me a number.
As separate from my regular income?
Correct. The thing that would make you say, fuck, this made it.
I'd like to at least make $10,000 a month.
So you want to make
not being, like I said, not being greedy. That's
fucking greedy. Let me help you understand why that's greedy. You said 10 to 15,000 on the side. Do you understand where $120,000 to $180,000 a year puts you in the scheme of 100% of the people in America's income?
Okay.
So you're being greedy. And I need people to understand that. Like people don't get it, right? Like that's, it's a real number. We need to define greedy. If you're making 6 figures a year, you're making a lot of money by standards. And I know New York might have different things than that, but you have to wrap your head around, I don't think we sit and really understand the data. $440,000 a year puts you at the bottom of 1%, the bottom of the 1%. The top 1% of everybody make $440,000 and up. But everybody starts talking like, if I don't make $1 million, like we're not grounding ourselves. Making $180,000 a year as a side hustle is greedy as fuck. I'm being serious. Now, by the way, you're entitled to be greedy. Be greedy, my man. But I need you to wrap your head around that first, right? Look, I think that you have to understand, you have to be in the sales and business, not in the content business. I have a feeling that you have a very big interest in all these things, so it's a lot more fun to make the content and do the content than it is to run the business.
Yeah, definitely more labor intensive. Yeah. I mean...
No, not labor intensive. It's what you like more.
Yeah.
You know, brother, you know what I like to do? Slip into everybody's DM and business develop. Yep. Let's make a fucking deal. Like, I make the content as the secondary thing. I don't like that. Why do you think I don't fucking edit Nico or Babin or D-Rock? I don't give a fuck about the lighting. I give a shit about the game, the hustle, selling, biz deving, bringing value, understanding how it brings back in brand, building a brand, leveraging, strategizing. Where am I going? Selling, doing, sneaker drop, planning the apps. I'm gonna business. That's my hustle. That's why I make money, because I like the business part. You might be making tremendous content. You just don't have the business chops, bro. Get a fucking partner, Richard, because you can't do it.
Round of applause for Richard.
And there's nothing wrong with that, man. That's when you make that mindset. Then you fucking win. Like, get the business partner.
You know what it is?
My podcast is The Variant Issue, and my website is rageworks.net.
We're going to say that one more
check
time.
it out.
Rageworks.net.
Rageworks.net is the site, and the podcast that I do right now is The Variant Issue. It's a comic book podcast, but we have a full podcast network of shows, sports, movies, video games. We got it all.
You're about to get 400 subscribers.
Guys, Richard, you have to understand. Richard, where are you from?
Oh, here in New York City. I'm from Queens.
If I was his business partner on his comic book podcast, we would make $1 million a year. Being serious, I can't. I got my own shit. Fuck you guys. You're welcome, brother.
Thanks, man.
So there you have it, folks. That was my conversation with Gary V and Chase Jarvis. Funny thing is that once that interview concluded, I genuinely felt like crap. I walked out of there, and while I felt inspired because so many people walked up to me afterwards saying that they were in similar shoes and they understood and to, keep at it and, make some adjustments. But the fact was that me personally, internally, I felt like crap. I was like, I've done this for so long and there's so many things I was proud of, so many great accomplishments and milestones before I had that conversation with Gary Vee that, I said to myself, it means nothing if there's no dollar value behind it, which at the time was, I guess, what I was looking for more than anything. I was, I really wasn't enjoying my daytime job, and the stuff with RageWorks and everything else was picking up steam, and we were covering a bunch of things and doing a bunch of different things that I guess I was hoping that it would be the that golden ticket moment where, I sit down and I share my story and they say, oh, you just got to do this and this. And then once you apply that logic, all of a sudden, boom, cash starts rolling in. Maybe that was not the right thinking at the time. I know for a fact that the money I was hoping to make when I shared that figure with him, it was just a number off the top of my head. And once I said it, I was like, that's just a crazy number to expect. And that was, there were a lot of things I look back on after that conversation that I wish I would have changed, that I would have just approached differently. But, it is what it is. And, I called my wife after that conversation and I told her what was said and how I felt. And she gave me some words of encouragement, told me, that everybody's success comes in, via different paths. And if I feel unfulfilled or don't enjoy what I do, then, she'd support my decision if I wanted to pull the plug. But she said that, there's other ways to get to where I want to get to, whatever that destination is. And, I thought about it and, I processed what she said, but I was still just wrapped up in what Gary said and pretty much how he dissected what I did. And, the thing about it was that I was, internally depressed for quite some time. And, I pushed through it and just kept doing what I was doing, especially because we had such a great team at RageWorks. And I was working on the Variant Issue podcast at the time with my colleague Jimbo. So there was, there were a lot of high spots. Obviously, like I said, it wasn't that I wasn't making any money. I just felt that I was trying to put a value on what I should be making. I guess that's where I'm going with it. But a lot changed and I forgot all about the interview, so to speak. And all of a sudden, a couple of months later, I see one email, 2 emails, 3 emails, 4 emails. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And each one was like, oh, I saw you on stage with Gary. And I said to myself, these are probably just people that were in attendance that I didn't get a chance to speak to. Didn't think anything of it because I remember some people asked me for my contact info or for business cards. Turns out that both Gary and Chase Jarvis shared the interview and, they shared the panel, I should say, for their own content. And people saw my story and they were reaching out with, obviously words of encouragement, some words of discouragement, so to speak. And some people just wanted, hey, I can do this logo or I can redo your website or, a bunch of different stuff. And some people I made some good connections with and we found ways to stay in touch, etc. But, I just kept along and left it alone. And, I made some adjustments from the advice that Gary suggested. I talked to the hosts on the podcast network, and I explained to them that with the stuff that we're doing, definitely you got to put a little skin in the game. And I told them to here's our expenses, and if they wanted to contribute towards that and still get the same service, I edit their shows, I put everything out there, put everything on iTunes. Very turnkey, one-stop shop. All the guys that host shows on the network, all they got to do is turn on their microphones, record, send their content over. I run it through a little bit of magic, sugar, and spice, so to speak, and throw it out onto the internet, whether it's on iTunes or Stitcher or TuneIn Radio, etc. And it's crazy. I felt weird just making that ask, I'll be honest. But the minute I said it, I didn't have to do much, and they said how much you need. We really enjoy what we do. We believe in it. We support it. And sure enough, that offset a lot of costs. Then from there, they started handling, the podcast hosts started handling their own advertising, which, we established a split, and that helped. And then I started doubling down on affiliate stuff, meaning affiliate links, just because we talked about so many games, toys, different things on our podcast, on the site, etc. So I really started sitting down and going through a lot of my written content, making sure there were affiliate links and the right relationships, etc. And that started to generate some revenue and offset more costs. And to be honest, the thing about it is that I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I'm making 3 or 5 figures off what I do, but there's something that you can't put a price tag on, and that's just being happy, feeling fulfilled, and enjoying what you do. And obviously, after my conversation with Gary and Chase and a bunch of other things went on, I found out I was going to be a father, and that just changed the game completely. We welcomed my daughter September of this year, 2019, and it was an eye opener. It was once I found out I was going to be a father, my entire approach to what I wanted to do with my brand and everything associated with it changed. For those of you that are, first time parents, I'm sure if you're on the hustle with your passion projects, the motivations and everything change. Because for me, don't get me wrong, I still love doing what I do, traveling to events, etc. But I also wanted to be present for my daughter. A good friend of mine that runs a group called Fatherhood is Lit, and that's basically his brand, preaches a message that really resonated with me at the time before I became a parent, and it was called presence over presence. It was a matter that you could buy your kid a bunch of stuff, but if you're not there, that's what matters most. And it just always stuck with me, the message, and it was something that I said to myself when I have my daughter. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I'm there, and my daytime job affords me the opportunity to work from home, and that just it made things easier. Don't get me wrong, like I said, would it be awesome to be at every con, do every event, review everything, cover everything? Sure, it would be, but at the end of the day, the people that matter most would suffer because of it. So, everybody talks about preaching the endless hustle, the endless grind, et cetera, and don't get me wrong, that's still a driving force, but the fact is that sometimes there's got to be something bigger than dead presidents, so to speak. So, that changed my entire approach on things. It approached how I ran my business differently. And, with regards to a lot of the stuff Gary said, I'm going to share those updates. A business partner definitely is something still looking for. There's been people that have come and go as a result of my conversation with Gary and Chase, and they'd say, oh, it'd be cool, I can get in and we could do some this and this together. And it was all a lot of talk. A lot of people didn't understand what goes into, running RageWorks. And the thing about it was that the people that have expressed interest at the time, it just didn't work for different reasons. Personality, they didn't really understand what we were all about, etc. And I think that was a big thing. If you're going to get into business with somebody, folks, do your homework. Don't just go, oh yeah, I'd make a great business partner, and know nothing about what we do, what our motivations are, etc. A little homework, even if it's just, hey, do you mind having a conversation so we can get better acquainted? That was something that a couple of people did, which was great. And once I told them what we were all about, what I was looking for, what they would get out of it, they were like, oh, okay. And some people were like, yeah, maybe it's just not for me, etc. And it was, it's all part of the process. So with regards to that, the search for a business partner continues. In terms, like I said, of monetization, after Gary made that suggestion and I tweaked it, things are definitely on the up and up. Lots of, like I said, messages, stuff came through, a lot of great people, and things got quiet as they always do. So between the last episode and this one, though, started getting some weird emails again. The first email was like, oh, hey, I saw you on the Gary V video, your story resonated, etc. And they included a link to the video. So I clicked it, and it wasn't Gary's video or Chase's video. It was actually another channel called Bro Advice that shared my video, my story, I should say, my conversation. And, a whole slew of new comments, some good, some bad. I'd want to say it was probably about 60-40 between good and bad. And, I try to be as transparent as possible. I respond to every comment, good and bad. And, I want to address some of that commentary. But for every good, hey, keep up the good work, I'm there, I get it, blah, 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 there was the usual, your website sucks, you doing this for this long sucks. And I was a little bummed, only because the video was shared with no context, meaning that it was shared. Nobody said, hey, this video was recorded or uploaded originally in X. And it was just like, hey, here's this guy who's been doing this for 11 years and made no money. And, no big deal with regards to the person that posted it. They chose to use their, the internet medium to deliver their thoughts and drive traffic to their channel. And that's cool. But just people, like I said, good and bad. Oh, look at this guy, blah, blah, blah. You should be focusing on dressing better, looking better. Just, the usual fun comments that many of us see on YouTube. And, like I said, I'll address that also in a moment. But it was, like I said, it was just going through the hassle, not the hassle, but just going through seeing all these comments and having to update people. And I said to myself, I really should record something. I was originally going to record a video and do all that, but just running around and doing stuff with the baby, I said to myself, it's easier to just turn on the microphone since I got to do a podcast anyway, and taking this opportunity to share, the darker side, so to speak, of what goes on with running a brand or a business. So that's where we're at now. To address a lot of the commentary from the people in the latest version of the video that came out, a few things. One person was asking why I don't generate content based on what my sisters and what their, my trials and tribulations in raising both of them, since they have special needs. And while I get it, and I think that, it's definitely a great topic for a conversation, I just don't want to be one of those people that uses their loved ones as props. I'm not trying to parade my sisters out there in front of people and putting their business out there. Even though I've been very transparent when it comes to my personal life and my personal situation, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm even weird, like with pictures of my kid. I don't really share them all over the place. And even if I share them on my personal Instagram, for instance, they don't go there. They go on my story. And if they do, there's like stickers and things to kind of just obscure her face. Like, unless I know you personally and like we're friends on Facebook, and I mean real friends, not just people following me, it's different. It's very, very, very different. So while I would definitely consider sharing things with regards to other people that are raising individuals with special needs, or dealing with the foster care system, or some of the stuff that happened after, my mom passed, and how I navigated towards, becoming my sister's guardian, those kind of stories I could definitely share, but not just, hey, this is our day and this is how I deal with this particular special need, or this is how I deal with another special need. It's just not something I genuinely feel comfortable doing, because like I said, I'm not in this. I'm in this to create cool stuff, but not at the expense of like my family. So for those of you that asked about that, I'd consider it, but I would only do it in a more generic term. Of course, everybody, you could do better thumbnails, you could do a better logo, etc. Listen, I'm a solo operator. It sucks. My stuff, my artistic skills are not great. Yes, I can go on Fiverr and get a logo, but again, when you're paying $5, what do you expect? Is it going to be better than mine? Than the stuff I have currently? Maybe, maybe not. So, I'd rather spend the money on, a better WordPress theme, etc. Because you guys hear Gary talk about it all the time in some of his content. If you consume it, logo doesn't matter. If you get hung up on that or how your website looks, paralysis analysis, you're not going to get anything done. I'd rather keep churning out good content, covering events, and eventually I'll get to that stuff. So yes, are my thumbnails lackluster for my YouTube videos? Absolutely. Could they be better? Absolutely. I'm not disputing any of that, folks. I definitely know that stuff needs improvement. While I'm on the subject of YouTube, a lot of people were checking out some of the podcasts that I post on YouTube, and same thing. Hey, your cover art could be better. This, that, the other thing. But the funny thing about it is that, and this goes back to the My Take Radio days, putting the podcast on the YouTube channel is something I just do as a courtesy for a lot of our longtime listeners that either can't stream a podcast via their phone because they get in trouble at work, or they just can't go to like RageWorks, the site, and check it out. So YouTube is one of the few things they have access to, which they play music, etc. in the background. So they just want to consume podcasts that way. I do it as a courtesy. It's not any sort of, this is how we're going to release our content. It's just because it takes, minutes to drop the audio in Adobe Premiere, take the cover art in a YouTube, 1280 by 720 scenario and put it out and let people enjoy it that way. Like I said, it's not the main way for people to consume our podcasts. Like I said, the main place is iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, etc. So for those of you that are wondering about why those episodes are there, that is why. The other thing, as I mentioned during that sit down, was the variant issue, which I was doing with my colleague, Jimbo Slice. We actually wrapped that podcast at episode 43. Jimbo just wasn't happy with where the comic book industry was going. And rather than sit there and turn on a microphone and complain for hours, it just started becoming not repetitive, but it was just something that he wasn't happy with. And I totally understand that. It's something where you have to enjoy it, and he wasn't, and he's one of my closest friends, and he kept it real. He's like, listen, man, I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying the comic book industry as a whole right now for different reasons between the stuff that's being written and the movies that are being put out. So, I just think that we should definitely wrap the show, which we did. We wrapped it up. It was a great run. People loved our stuff, but that's something he wanted to do, and I respected his wishes. I'm not going to go and say, all right, man, I'll keep doing the podcast. It's just something that we started together and we ended together. So that's where the variant issue is currently. As a result of that, I got the itch to do a podcast, and here we are doing Toys and Tech of the Trade. So that's the update with regards to that particular podcast. Lastly, and I wanna mention for everybody who's in a similar situation, you guys look at Lewis Howes and Gary Vee and Tim Ferriss and hell, Joe Rogan, for some of you podcasters out there, and you guys want to be these individuals, you want to emulate these individuals, and Gary says it all the time, consume my content, men, but eventually stop consuming it and go and live your life. There's nobody accomplishes anything by sitting on the sidelines. And, that's one thing that I've really enjoyed on this journey, because everything I've done thus far has been self-taught, how to podcast, how to edit, self-taught. Some of the video stuff that I've done, again, not pretty, self-taught. And the thing about it is that everybody wants, this polish and this fancy stuff. And one thing I can say with a lot of my content is the audio has always been good. When it comes to my video stuff, the video quality has been fine in terms of how it looks. Is it the best videos, the worst videos? That's open to interpretation. But, just going out there and doing it is definitely step one. And I think that if you're out there, you're doing this stuff, you love doing it, and it makes you happy, that's enough, man. The money will come eventually. That's the thing. Some people are really in this on a get rich quick type of scenario, and that doesn't always work that way. I mean, a lot of people, when they come to me and ask about podcasting or wanting to get into podcasts, I tell them, I'm like, listen, you may not make money for the first year, the first 2 years. You got to really be systematic. You have to decide to double down on putting out content every week, keeping it fresh. If you have some dispensable income to, get an editor or do this, that, or the other thing to make your brand or your podcast better, then so be it. But I also tell them, like, make sure that you get past 10 episodes before you decide, hey, I need a new microphone, or hey, I want to spend hundreds of dollars on a mixer, just because that's always the measuring stick. I tell people 10 episodes, even 20 nowadays, is probably a better gauge on whether you can do this for the long haul. So that's something I did want to share with everyone. The other thing I wanted to put out there is that, the site, the brand, and everything else for that matter, it's always a work in progress. Right now, I'm actually meeting with, I think, 4 different artists for new logos, not only for RageWorks, the brand, but for our RageWorks podcast network, and even just for the channel, the YouTube channel for RageWorks. All that stuff can be better, and I'm going through it piece by piece, just trying to find the right mix of what we're all about, the right colors, etc. But again, not focusing on it too much, because it's easier to just focus on content, and then everything else will come together. The business partner search, like I said, continues. If anybody's interested and enjoys what we're about and figures, hey, let's sit down and figure something out, listen, my door's always open, so you can always email or reach out via social, and we can discuss it further. But I wanted to share this update because I felt that it needed to be done. I should have done it with the first video, and I wanted to put a little bit more context behind the most recent version of the video that got out, because again, everybody just assumed that's where I am, and it's not. Hell, the way I look is completely different than that video. Everybody automatically looks at a big sweatshirt and doesn't put any stock in what's under it. And it's crazy, man, that's what people get hung up on. You look at early pictures of Jeff Bezos or any of these guys, and these guys were nothing what they were at the time, when they were at the top of their game versus when they were at the bottom. But people get hung up on the superficial and how you should look when it comes to running a business. And I think that you can have no arms and no legs, man, but if the hustle is real, the hustle is real, and you'll get to where you want to get to. I mean, I look at athletes, that have no arms or no legs, and they're chiseled out of granite, man, and they don't worry about the fact that they're missing a limb or 2 limbs or even all 4 take away from their goal. And I think that, if you get hung up on stuff like that, that's another thing that's really just not going to help you get to that next level. And I don't want to get all preachy and motivational, because that's not what you're here for. But listen, man, just evaluate what you do and really decide if, number one, it makes you happy. The money is a separate thing, but if it makes you happy, if you can wake up with a smile on your face, enjoying what you do, and go to bed accomplished with a smile on your face, then sometimes that's enough payment. It really is. Like, some people, like I said, are just hung up on, you got to make 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it's like something Gary Vee said a while back. Some people are happy being, the 10th person hired at Facebook instead of wanting to be Mark Zuckerberg. And that works for some people. For me, I'm just going to keep fighting the good fight on my own terms and giving you guys the best content that I can give you, and more importantly, giving it to you the way that I think it should be given. And lastly, to wrap things up, everybody asks, what's RageWorks about? What does it mean? And I look at RageWorks the same way I look at a website like IGN, comicbook.com, etc. I'll give you a great example. When people talk about, you guys are spread too thin, I always tell them, like, listen, we don't cover wrestling anymore. We have a podcast that covers that. We don't cover MMA because the landscape and the climate of MMA has changed tremendously. And that was just something I covered on My Take Radio and doesn't make sense. But I'll tell you guys one thing. If you go to comicbook.com currently, one of the leading websites for pop culture and comic book news and anything related to that particular genre of entertainment, you'll see that comicbook.com now covers wrestling. Not just regular WWE mainstream stuff, but some indie stuff as well. And they cover it quite a bit. And again, this is a brand that is known for talking about Iron Man and Captain America, and now you can talk about Iron Man, Captain America, and Roman Reigns and Finn Balor and Ronda Rousey in the same breath. And people either consume their content and enjoy it, or they just keep it moving because it's not for them. You look at Uprocks, which does What Would Tyler Durden Do, which is their film site, but they also do a wrestling site, with I believe it's with spandex. And they continue, doing their content as well. And again, it's not what their main focus is, but it's just something they cover. And the thing about it is that maybe I do need to niche down, maybe I don't, but that's where I envision RageWorks as, like that IGN, that source for a lot of this stuff. But again, not polished or pretty, but just real and raw, so to speak. We don't want to sit there and be beholden to a company that gave us a free game just because we got it for free. We want to tell you if the game is good, why it's good, and we don't want to wrap it in a whole bunch of fluff. There's better websites and better people that do that. So that's kind of how I look at things. I like to create my content that's easy to consume, but also tells people what they need to know. If you want to know if a movie is good, you're not going to need to read a 10,000 word essay from us to get it. We're going to break it down to its nuts and bolts and tell you whether it's good or it's not. And either that works for you or it doesn't. And the same thing with our video content, just quick and to the point, something that we just don't want to beat up. And I think that's really the driving focus. That's how I view RageWorks, in that same, Gizmodo, Lifehacker, IGN, comicbook.com type of a vibe, but just delivered my own way. Is it right? Is it wrong? That remains to be seen, but that's where I view things. With regards to how we do things on YouTube, it's a reflection of how we do the site and what we cover. Some stuff is going to be great. Some stuff is going to be, not so great, but everything is sorted into playlists. So if you want to read, let me rephrase that. If you want to watch our coverage from Toy Fair, then you'll go to the playlist and watch all the Toy Fair stuff. Everything is segregated because I said to myself, I can't run 5, 6, 7 channels. Would it be awesome to have like RageWorks Games or RageWorks Tech on YouTube? It would be great, but it just becomes a bunch of other things to manage. It's like social media. Hey, are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Snapchat? Are you on this? Are you on that? And before you know it, you've spread yourself so thin on social that, you're not really accomplishing much. Like, we have a Twitter presence and we do stuff, but we just share our content there. And don't get me wrong, I engage whenever possible, but Instagram, Facebook is kind of easier for me, and that's what I'm good at, and that's where I get results either from engagement or from traffic, etc. So that's where I focus my efforts. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Plus, like I said, update everyone that has seen that video because things have changed a lot since then. In any case, let's bring this to a close. If you enjoyed this particular episode and want me to do episodes like this, just more Q&A, internally focused, whether it's tactics or tools, etc., let me know. Feel free to email me, rich@rageworks.net or podcast@rageworks.net. Toys and Tech of the Trade is mainly focused on sharing everyone else's stories, but if you want to, get a little bit more of my story or just the more of the gadgets and gear that I'm using, by all means, let me know. I want to start doing audio reviews because that's something a lot of people have been asking for, just because it, convenience. Somebody wants to know, hey, is this microphone any good, or are these headphones any good? Yeah, you can watch a YouTube video, but if you're consuming the content, we could just tell you on the spot if it's worth checking out. Just something that we're still focusing on. Lastly, we got a lot of great guests on deck for the next couple of months, and we definitely look forward to sharing those stories with you guys. As always, if you like what we do and you're consuming our content on iTunes, please take a moment and rate the show. We would really, really appreciate it. As always, it helps us for social proof, gets us on people's radar, and it's nice, man. It's nice being on the new and noteworthy or what's hot right now. So, if you got a second or two, rate the show, and if you even have an extra minute or two and you could just write a review, we would really, really appreciate it. Social media, you can find links to where you can find us in the show notes for this episode. As I said, if you're on Facebook, you can look for RageWorks and engage with us there. On Instagram, we're at RageWorks. You can definitely engage with me there. I try to share, again, photos of all the cool stuff that we cover, trailers, etc. So if you're on Instagram and you're not following us already, feel free to do so. I try to respond to everybody that follows us with a quick DM, thanking them for the follow. Sometimes I'll ask what brought them here. Just little things, engagement, etc. So I hope this update answered any questions for those of you that watched those Gary V videos of where we're at. As always, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. All right, we're not going to drag this out any further. Thank you guys for taking the time to hear this update and who've been consuming our content since day one. We truly, truly appreciate you. See you guys in 2 weeks. I'm out of here. Peace.